First, I just wanted to say thank you for all the support I received over that last TikTok video. I didn't expect it to blow up like it did. Trust me, I've seen your comments, I've seen your support, I've seen your love and questions, and I just really appreciated that. And so I wanted to make this video as a follow-up.
What's your name? Tell me a little bit about yourself.
My name's Julia. I'm from Indiana. I'm a child welfare advocate, and I spent about 5 years in foster care.
What inspired you to pursue a career in child welfare policy and advocacy?
That's a really good question. So when I was 18, I aged out of foster care, and I kind of wanted as far away from the system as I could get. A lot of horrible things happened while I was in foster care, and I didn't have any intention of ever returning to that sphere. But a mentor of mine actually told me that sharing my story about what happened to me and things that went well with that while I was in foster care could actually help children who are currently experiencing child welfare. So from there, I went and I started talking to legislators, people who craft legislation, to share my story and try and get some change.
Can you explain what child welfare policy entails and why is it important?
Child welfare policy touches a lot of different areas. For me, it started with just advocating about foster children because that was my experience. It's led to, kids that are in group homes, all the way into food stamps and the outcomes of educational endeavors within our country. So child welfare covers anything that has to do with child well-being. And why is it important? Child welfare is super important. I mean, for a number of reasons, the obvious, I'm sure you guys could state, it's the future of our democracy, it's the future of our country, but it's also just their kids, and the control, unfortunately, is sometimes in our government's hands of what their outcomes and lives are going to look like, specifically for foster children. And so there's a lot of impact to be made there, a lot of influence to be had. And so making sure that our children are well fed, we're well cared for, well loved, those types of things, it's influential.
What are the key challenges you face as a child welfare advocate?
I think I have two answers for that one. So for the first one, I think people tend to discredit me a little bit. I'm in that space and in that realm because there was a system created by legislation, by laws, by policies, and I was a child who was at the butt end of that, experiencing those laws and policies. But sometimes, and most oftentimes, I'm the youngest person in the room. I'm also a girl, and sometimes those are really intimidating spaces to be in. A lot of these people have a lot different background than I did, and different childhoods, different adolescent lives, and sometimes have a little bit, it feels like a step above me. And then I think the second one is a challenge in child welfare is sometimes the topics can be super heavy and they hit close to home.
How do you measure success in your advocacy work?
Success, I think, can be measured in a multitude of different ways. I think one of the most prominent ways is when legislation actually passes. So, for instance, I worked on a bill in Indiana where it was to better grant foster youth more accessibility to drive because we experience a lot of barriers when we try and get a driver's license, get driving hours, and actually get a car. And so I worked on a bill to help limit some of those barriers, and it ended up passing.
What bill was that?
It was SB 151 in Indiana. So it was a really exciting time. So working on that and getting legislation actually passed is like the star of the show. But I think that some of those personal moments along the way also just really show success is when, someone who might not know much about child welfare or foster youth is like, oh, dang, that situation is horrible, what can we do about it? Or just kind of like that reaction of let's change this when they hear our stories. Thank you guys for listening and watching. Make sure to reach out to me if you have any questions, comments, or want to share your story.